You almost scrolled past this. You were about to move on, thinking this was just another motivational message, another promise of personal growth, another talk about energy and mindset that you've heard before. But something made you stop. Something caught your attention, not with noise or hype, but with a quiet pull that said, wait. That pause wasn't random. It was your own field recognizing that this message carries something your consciousness has been waiting to remember. This isn't another talk about positivity or discipline. This is about the hidden mechanism behind transformation itself. The missing understanding that explains why some growth sticks and some fades, why sometimes your focus creates results instantly, and other times everything you try seems to fall apart. You've sensed that there's a pattern beneath the chaos, that personal power isn't random luck, but a quantum alignment between intention and energy. And you're right. Right now as you read, your mind is scanning these words, but something deeper is listening. You can feel that quiet hum, that subtle electricity behind your awareness. That's the part of you that's always known there's more to reality than effort and willpower. You've read books, watched countless teachings, tried affirmations, visualizations, meditations, strategies. Some of them worked for a while, some didn't. And every time results slipped away, you wondered if you were missing something. You thought maybe you needed more focus, more discipline, more practice. But it was never about doing more. It was about understanding how energy actually organizes itself when consciousness aligns with intention. This is the part no one teaches clearly. The truth that personal growth isn't about constant pushing or trying harder, but about learning to synchronize with the field that already carries the outcome you desire. When you understand this, motivation stops being a struggle. It becomes a natural state, an effortless current that pulls you toward aligned action instead of forcing you through resistance. You've felt flashes of that current before. Those moments when things flow, when timing is perfect, when opportunities appear right after you made a clear decision. You might have called it coincidence, but you were witnessing quantum alignment. You were in coherence. Think about the times when you were fully present, acting from clarity instead of fear. In those moments, decisions felt simple. You didn't second guess. You didn't overthink. Life responded instantly. Then other times you tried to repeat that magic. You forced affirmations, visualized harder, set tighter goals, but everything felt heavy, distant, resistant. The more you tried, the less things moved. You weren't losing your ability. You were just operating from the wrong frequency. There are two states of being that shape every result. One where you try to control outcomes through force, and another where you allow outcomes to align through coherence. When you're in the first, everything feels uphill. When you're in the second, life feels alive with synchronicity. You've been told to work hard. You've been told to think positive. You've been told to never give up. And yet deep down, you've always sensed that true creation happens when something inside you clicks into place and effort becomes unnecessary. That isn't laziness, that's mastery. It's the difference between swimming against the current and realizing the current was meant to carry you all along. Real personal growth is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you are beneath resistance. Every limitation you faced has been a reflection of the parts of you that still believe change requires struggle. Every failure was a mirror showing you where you were trying to control life instead of allowing it to move through you. You've seen it happen. The person who works tirelessly but stays stuck. The one who seems to attract everything effortlessly. It isn't luck. It's coherence. The difference between effort born of separation and action born of alignment. When you act from the first, you feel like a small self trying to move a giant world. When you act from the second, you realize the world moves with you because you and the field are one movement. Every quantum teaching points to this. Every spiritual insight circles around it, but few explain it in a way you can actually live. That's what this is for. Not theory, not abstract talk about vibration or frequency, but real understanding that changes the way you experience growth and manifestation forever. Right now, you're already participating in it. Reading these words is creating a shift in your field. Your attention itself is energy. Your focus is a signal to the quantum fabric around you, saying, "I am ready to remember." Each sentence is adjusting that signal, fine-tuning your awareness to recognize what you've always been capable of. You've spent years believing personal power meant control. That discipline meant pushing through fear. That success meant forcing outcomes until life finally surrendered. But what if it was the other way around? What if the field has been waiting for you to stop fighting so it could finally respond? You've been chasing motivation, looking for ways to ignite action, but motivation that comes from pressure always burns out. Real motivation is a side effect of coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and energy line up, movement happens automatically. You don't need to push. You feel pulled. That pull isn't magic. It's alignment. And alignment is the natural state when resistance ends. Personal growth then stops being a path of endless self-improvement and becomes a process of allowing your potential to express itself through clarity. You've probably noticed that certain moments in your life repeat until you understand their lesson. The same frustration, the same pattern, the same emotional reaction. That repetition isn't punishment, it's feedback. The field is reflecting your internal state. When you shift, reality shifts. But because no one teaches this with clarity, you keep thinking life is happening to you instead of through you. Every event, every emotion, every so-called obstacle is data, showing you where your energy is misaligned. Once you learn to read it, everything changes. Imagine understanding that every disappointment was never failure but communication. Imagine realizing that life wasn't ignoring your efforts, but responding exactly to the frequency you were sending. That changes everything. You stop blaming yourself. You stop blaming circumstances. You start to see that your growth was never about fixing yourself, but about learning how your consciousness interacts with energy. This understanding is the turning point. It's the threshold between trying to change life and realizing you are life changing itself through awareness. You've reached a point where old strategies no longer work because you've evolved beyond them. You can't motivate yourself through pressure anymore. You can't fake positivity when your energy knows the difference. You can't keep forcing change through action when the next stage of your growth requires alignment. That's why you're here, because you've outgrown the old model of self-improvement and are ready for a deeper truth. The truth that the quantum field isn't outside you. It's you. And when you align with that, growth becomes not something you do, but something that unfolds. This moment is the activation point. You've prepared for it through every success, every failure, every question that brought you back to searching again. That restlessness you felt isn't lack. It's readiness. Consciousness evolving to the point where it can finally recognize its own mechanics. You've always known this moment would come, even if you couldn't name it. You can feel the quiet shift now, can't you? That subtle sense that something important is clicking into place. That's not imagination. That's coherence forming. You're remembering how to work with energy instead of against it. Keep reading, because what comes next will show you the exact way this field responds to your consciousness. How your growth, your manifestation, your motivation are all expressions of one underlying movement. You don't need new techniques or external validation. You only need awareness. The awareness that the same power that shapes galaxies is shaping your thoughts right now. And when you understand how that connection works, you'll never see struggle the same way again. This isn't the end of a message. It's the opening. The point where the surface of everything you've learned begins to reveal what's underneath. Your consciousness has brought you here for a reason. The next step isn't about effort, it's about attention. Stay with this. The revelation continues. You're still here. That means something inside you recognizes that what you're reading isn't just another idea or inspiration to forget tomorrow. You can feel it building. The quiet awareness that you're on the edge of understanding something that finally makes sense of all the fragments you've collected along your path. You've been growing for a long time. You've pushed through fear, rewritten stories, built habits, repeated affirmations, practiced gratitude, visualized better realities. You've done the work. But somewhere deep down, you've also known that there's a limit to effort alone. You've sensed that no matter how strong your mindset, something larger is shaping your outcomes. And until you understand how to work with it consciously, growth will always feel half-finished. That's what this part is about. The missing piece that makes personal development and manifestation finally merge into one living process. You've been taught that motivation is a mental game, that willpower drives progress, that confidence creates results. But those are surface-level mechanics. They're expressions of a deeper law, the quantum law that consciousness organizes energy according to coherence, not force. When you feel aligned, things move. When you feel divided, they stall. When your mind, heart, and intention are pointed in one direction, reality mirrors that unity. When they pull against each other, outcomes scatter. You've experienced this firsthand. Think about the moments when you decided on something with absolute clarity. No doubt, no hesitation, just a quiet knowing that it was done. What happened? Reality rearranged itself. The opportunity appeared. The right person called. The timing worked out, and it felt effortless. Then think about when you wanted something desperately. Tried everything. Pushed with all your energy and nothing happened. The difference wasn't in your worth or your desire. It was in your coherence. One state communicates alignment to the field. The other broadcasts resistance. This is where real growth begins. Not in doing more, but in noticing what energy you're sending. Most people mistake movement for progress. They chase activity, thinking it equals alignment. But busy energy isn't coherent energy. You can work 12 hours a day and still be misaligned. You can meditate in silence and still resist what is. Because coherence isn't about what you do, it's about the state you do it from. When you act from fear, doubt, or urgency, even good actions create tension. When you act from clarity, even small steps open doors. You've probably wondered why some days you wake up inspired, full of energy, ready to act, and other days you can't find the drive no matter how much you push. That shift isn't random. It's the fluctuation between alignment and fragmentation. One day you're in tune with your purpose. The next you're tangled in noise. The mistake is thinking you need to fight through the noise. The truth is you only need to stop feeding it. The field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to signal. The clearer your signal, the faster reality adjusts. The more contradiction you broadcast, the slower everything feels. You can feel coherence in your body. It's that sense of peace under action, the stillness behind movement, the deep breath before everything starts flowing. When you're coherent, you don't question yourself. You don't need validation. You move from knowing. People mistake that state for confidence, but it's not confidence. It's alignment. Confidence is believing in yourself. Alignment is remembering that you are the self the universe believes in. When you act from that, doubt disappears because you're no longer separate from what you're creating. Personal growth becomes quantum growth when you start working from the inside out. When you realize that mindset isn't a tool to control outcomes, but a way to tune into them. That emotions aren't obstacles but indicators. That manifestation isn't about forcing energy, but matching it. You begin to see that every emotion, every thought, every action is communication with the field. Fear says, I'm separate. Gratitude says, I'm connected. Resistance says, I don't trust the process. Presence says, I already am the process. And the field responds exactly to that communication. This is why forcing positivity doesn't work. The field doesn't hear your words. It reads your coherence. You can say everything's fine while your energy screams chaos. You can repeat affirmations all day while your internal signal says the opposite. Energy can't lie. You can't trick the field with words. But the moment you align thought, feeling, and action, reality shifts instantly because coherence is truth, and truth always organizes energy. This understanding changes everything. You stop chasing motivation because you realize motivation comes naturally when resistance ends. You stop overthinking because clarity becomes your default state when energy aligns. You stop trying to prove yourself because you understand that coherence needs no proof. You start living from a deeper rhythm, one where intuition leads and logic supports, where inspiration meets discipline, where effort feels like flow because nothing inside you is fighting anymore. You've seen glimpses of this rhythm before, those rare days when things just click, when you say exactly the right thing, when everything aligns with perfect timing. That's coherence. That's what happens when you move with the field instead of against it. And it's not luck. It's a state of awareness you can learn to access intentionally. Once you understand how to work with energy, you stop trying to fix life and start allowing it to organize around you. Every challenge you faced has been training. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door was teaching you how to listen to feedback from the field. The universe wasn't saying no, it was saying not aligned. When you take that feedback without judgment, you evolve faster. Because alignment isn't achieved by force but by awareness. The more aware you become, the more fluidly you shift between action and allowing. Here's the truth that most people miss. Growth isn't about always being high energy or optimistic. It's about staying aware when you're not. When you catch yourself pushing, doubting, forcing, that awareness alone begins the shift. The moment you recognize resistance, coherence begins to return. You don't have to correct every thought or emotion. You only have to stop identifying with them as truth. Thoughts are signals, not commands. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. When you listen without attachment, resistance dissolves naturally. The same principle applies to manifestation. When you desire something from lack, you create distance between yourself and the thing desired. When you desire something from wholeness, you collapse the distance because your energy already matches the outcome. You're not waiting for it, you're aligning with it. The moment your consciousness stops contradicting itself, what you've asked for becomes inevitable. That's not magic, that's physics. Energy organizes around coherence. You don't need to believe this blindly. Test it. Pay attention to your daily life. Notice how small shifts in your internal state instantly change external circumstances. Notice how people respond differently when you're grounded versus when you're anxious. Notice how solutions appear the moment you stop fighting the problem. That's the field responding. Once you start seeing the connection, you'll realize it's always been there. You just weren't conscious of how you were interacting with it. Everything that's ever inspired you, every great achievement, every act of courage, every moment of clarity came from coherence. Every setback, confusion, and frustration came from fragmentation. Nothing more, nothing less. You've already experienced both sides. Now you're learning to recognize them consciously. That's the shift from accidental growth to intentional evolution. So here's where it all begins. Stop forcing and start noticing. Stop pushing and start aligning. The power you've been chasing isn't somewhere else. It's in your coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and energy stop arguing with each other, the field has no choice but to respond. Because the universe doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you are. And when what you are becomes clear, reality has no option but to mirror it. This is where personal growth becomes quantum manifestation, where doing and being merge, where effort transforms into flow. You're not learning something new. You're remembering how creation actually works. You're waking up to the mechanism that has always been running quietly beneath every experience of your life. Awareness is the key. Coherence is the door. And you've just found the handle. You can feel it now. The awareness that something inside you has started to move differently. The words are no longer just ideas. They're signals. They're aligning with something in you that recognizes truth when it feels it. You're not learning this for the first time. You're remembering. Every time you tried to control your growth, every time you forced manifestation, every time you pushed harder, hoping that effort alone would change everything, you were actually being shown what happens when you create from fragmentation. And now you're ready to create from coherence. This is where the real transformation begins, because once you understand how coherence works, you realize that the external world isn't reacting to you. It's reflecting you. The people you meet, The challenges you face, the delays, the breakthroughs, all of it mirrors your internal state. When you're aligned, life flows. When you're conflicted, life resists. The field doesn't judge, it only responds. This is why every experience you've had, even the painful ones, were essential. They showed you your vibration. They revealed the patterns still hidden in your unconscious. You weren't being punished. You were being educated. Consciousness learns through reflection, and reality is the perfect mirror. Think about how many times you've said, "I'll feel better when it finally works out." But it never works that way, does it? Because waiting to feel good after the result is backward. The field moves in response to the state you bring to it. When you're already in the energy of wholeness, the result must match it. When you're in the energy of lack, the result must also match it. It's not personal. It's energetic law. Once you understand that, you stop chasing outcomes and start cultivating states. Because your state is what writes the script of your experience. This is why personal growth and quantum manifestation are one and the same. Growth isn't about fixing yourself. It's about shifting your frequency. You can read all the books, repeat all the affirmations, visualize every detail of your dream. But if the signal you're broadcasting is rooted in fear or self-doubt, the field will mirror that frequency back to you. The good news is that awareness changes everything. The moment you notice the misalignment, you have the power to correct it. You don't need to fight it. You only need to become conscious of it. Right now, as you read this, your energy is reorganizing. It happens every time truth is recognized. That's why you feel that subtle lightness in your chest, or that quiet surge of energy behind your eyes. It's coherence forming. Your system is responding to the vibration of understanding. You're not just hearing these words, you're syncing with them. Every part of you that used to believe growth was about effort is softening. Every part that thought manifestation required control is letting go. You're beginning to see that the field responds not to control but to clarity. You've probably noticed moments lately when your emotions surface stronger than usual. Old memories, old patterns, sudden waves of resistance. Don't fight them. They're not setbacks. They're recalibrations. The field is releasing everything that doesn't match your new frequency. What you used to interpret as chaos is actually clearing. It's coherence removing what's incoherent. Let it move through. Let it leave. The only reason it feels uncomfortable is because you've identified with what's dissolving. You're not losing anything real. You're shedding interference. This is the part of growth most people resist. The moment before alignment stabilizes. The stage where everything that's not true must surface so you can release it. But if you can stay aware through this phase instead of falling back into fear, something remarkable happens. You begin to see patterns in real time. You notice how a single thought can shift your emotional state, how one belief can alter the way reality responds. You start catching yourself before the old vibration completes its cycle. And that's when you become truly powerful. Not because you control reality, but because you stop creating resistance. Every teacher you've ever listened to was pointing you toward this. Every practice was training your awareness to recognize coherence. When you meditate, you're not escaping the world. You're tuning your field. When you visualize, you're not forcing outcomes. You're aligning frequencies. When you practice gratitude, you're not pretending things are good. You're reinforcing coherence by focusing on what already aligns. Every tool has always been about this one thing, bringing your energy into agreement with itself. You don't need to be perfect to be coherent. You just need to be honest. When you admit what you feel, the energy starts to move. When you suppress it, it stagnates. The field reads truth, not performance. You can be scared and still be aligned if you're honest about the fear. You can feel uncertain and still be coherent if you're not resisting the uncertainty. Because coherence isn't about constant positivity. It's about inner agreement. Every part of you moving in the same direction. No contradiction. No fight between what you say, what you feel, and what you believe. When that happens, energy flows like water. You start noticing how easily life organizes itself. People show up at the right time. Messages arrive at the exact moment you need them. Doors open that logic never could have predicted. You feel lighter, clearer, more connected. This is not fantasy. It's feedback from the field telling you that your signal is clean. The same principle that makes an instrument produce perfect sound applies to your life. When you're in tune, reality resonates. When you're out of tune, it distorts. This understanding changes the way you respond to everything. When something doesn't go your way, instead of reacting with frustration, you ask, "What is this showing me about my signal?" When things fall apart, you recognize it's not failure, it's reorganization. The field can't align with incoherence, so it dissolves what doesn't match. That dissolution might look like endings, breakdowns, or delays, but it's actually alignment happening in slow motion. The faster you accept it, the faster the new pattern stabilizes. Coherence is not passive. It's active awareness. It's choosing to stay conscious when your mind wants to fight. It's breathing when your ego wants to panic. It's remembering that resistance doesn't protect you. It disconnects you. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, your frequency stabilizes. Every time you release the need to control, your field expands. Every time you trust the process, manifestation accelerates. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you stop interfering with what was always trying to reach you. This is the real discipline. Not forcing yourself to work harder, but training your awareness to stay aligned. Not repeating affirmations mechanically, but feeling their truth vibrate through your energy. Not chasing results, but nurturing coherence until the result has no choice but to appear. Growth becomes simple once you understand this. Not easy, but simple. Because now you know the mechanism. You know that your internal frequency is the master control. And once you know, you can't unknow. You can't go back to thinking life happens randomly. You can't pretend your emotions don't matter. You can't ignore the feedback of your energy. You become conscious of your role in every outcome. That awareness changes everything. It makes you responsible, not guilty. Powerful, not pressured. It reminds you that you are never stuck. You're just temporarily misaligned. And alignment is always one breath, one thought, one shift away. So here's where you stand right now. You've learned to see effort differently. You've begun to recognize the field as responsive, not distant. You've started to understand that personal growth and quantum manifestation are two sides of the same movement. The next step is learning how to stabilize coherence so that it becomes your natural state, not something you reach occasionally. Because once coherence becomes your baseline, manifestation stops being a practice and becomes a way of living. The field isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for honesty. It's asking you to stop pretending you're separate from what you're trying to create. It's asking you to remember that alignment doesn't come from control. It comes from trust. You've reached the point where trying harder won't work anymore. You don't need more effort. You need more alignment. And the moment you stop resisting what is, you'll notice that the current was always carrying you. You just had to stop swimming against it. Stay with this awareness. Let it settle. Let it rewrite the way you approach growth. Let it remind you that everything you've been searching for has been waiting for you to become still enough to notice. You don't have to chase transformation. You only have to recognize that it's already happening through you. And as you do, you'll feel it. The field responding, aligning, reorganizing around your clarity. The process has already begun. The next part will show you how to make that state permanent. You've made it this far for a reason. You didn't just stumble into this. Something within you guided you to keep reading, to keep exploring, to keep following the pull even when your mind said you'd heard enough. You stayed because your field recognized the frequency. You stayed because your consciousness was ready for the final step, integration. This is where awareness becomes embodiment. This is where knowledge becomes experience. This is where you stop trying to apply these principles and start living them as your natural state. You already feel it, don't you? That quiet clarity behind your thoughts. That sense that something has shifted in the background of your awareness. It's subtle but undeniable. You can feel yourself more centered, more grounded, more present. That's coherent stabilizing. It's not something you have to maintain through effort. It's what happens when you stop collapsing into resistance. The field has been recalibrating around your awareness since the moment you began reading. Every insight, every realization has been reordering energy within you, aligning you with a deeper level of flow. You've learned that effort without alignment creates resistance. You've seen that control without trust creates exhaustion. You've discovered that manifestation without coherence creates inconsistency. Now you understand that real growth isn't about fixing, forcing, or chasing. It's about remembering how to stay aligned with what already wants to happen through you. Every desire you have isn't random. It's the field trying to express itself through your unique form. When you align with that expression instead of trying to manipulate it, life becomes partnership instead of struggle. This is the moment to stop asking how long transformation will take. It's already happening. The question is whether you'll allow it to continue without interference. The more you allow, the faster coherence stabilizes. The more you trust, the stronger your field becomes. You don't need to control every step. You only need to stay aware of your state. That's the entire practice, awareness. Every time you notice when you slip into resistance, you automatically begin to release it. Awareness is self-correcting. The moment you see the pattern, it loses power. You've spent years building discipline, learning systems, chasing knowledge, searching for secrets. And now you realize the real secret is simplicity. The field doesn't need complicated rituals. It only needs consistency of signal. When you think one thing, feel another, and act in a third, you scramble the signal. When you think, feel, and act as one, reality organizes instantly. You've experienced this alignment before, but now you know why it worked. That's the difference between accidental creation and conscious creation. You're shifting from reaction to response, from hoping to knowing. Look at your life as it is right now. Every detail reflects your current level of coherence. The people who stay, the ones who leave, the opportunities that show up, the delays that persist, it's all communication. The field isn't random, it's responsive. When you understand that, you stop judging the reflection and start adjusting the signal. You stop asking why things are happening to you and start asking what they're showing you. Every situation becomes feedback. Every emotion becomes guidance. You stop fighting against life because you finally understand it's on your side. The beauty of coherence is that it doesn't require perfection. You will still shift. You will still oscillate between expansion and contraction, flow and resistance, clarity and confusion. That's natural. That's the pulse of creation itself. The difference now is that you won't identify with the contraction anymore. You won't panic when flow fades. You'll recognize that each oscillation is just the rhythm of energy moving through form. Awareness allows you to navigate that rhythm consciously. That's mastery. Not staying in one state forever, but moving fluidly between them without losing yourself. When you wake up tomorrow, pay attention to your first thought. That thought sets the tone for your field. If it's resistance, notice it. Don't fight it. Just observe it. Awareness begins alignment. Then throughout your day, watch your energy. Notice when it tightens. Notice when it expands. Don't label one good and the other bad. Just recognize the shift. The moment you become aware, coherence begins to return. That's all you need to do. Stay awake to your own frequency. Everything else takes care of itself. You're not trying to master the universe. You're remembering that you are part of its intelligence. You're not commanding energy. You're communicating with it. The more coherent your communication, the clearer the response. The field doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you are. When your energy says yes, reality says yes. When your energy says no, reality pauses. The universe is never testing you. It's always matching you. Once you see that, you stop doubting your power. Your journey wasn't random. Every failure taught you alignment. Every frustration trained your awareness. Every loss stripped away resistance. You needed all of it to reach this level of clarity. Because only through contrast could you learn the difference between forcing and allowing, between noise and signal, between effort and flow. Now you can see clearly. The noise was never your enemy. It was the friction that revealed what alignment feels like. Without it, you would never know the texture of coherence. So here's the truth that remains after all the complexity fades. Growth isn't something you achieve, it's something you remember. Manifestation isn't something you force, it's something you allow. Coherence isn't something you create, it's something you stop disrupting. You've been looking for transformation outside of yourself, but it's been waiting in the quiet space behind your thoughts the entire time. The moment you stop chasing it, you find it. The moment you stop resisting it, it finds you. This is what it means to live in alignment with the field. You stop trying to control timing. You stop demanding outcomes. You stop fearing uncertainty. Instead, you move with awareness. You make choices from clarity. You act when it's time to act. You rest when it's time to rest. You stop defining success by speed and start defining it by alignment. Because when you're coherent, timing is perfect. You can't miss what's meant for you. You can only resist it. And now that you understand how coherence works, even resistance becomes optional. What happens next is up to you. You can read this and move on, or you can live it and let it rewrite everything. You can go back to effort and struggle, or you can step fully into alignment and allow life to show you what it's capable of when you stop interfering. The choice is yours, but the field has already responded to your awareness. It's waiting for your decision. The moment you choose coherence, everything begins to reorganize. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped blocking it. You've reached the point where transformation is inevitable. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed struggle to feel progress. You've released the identity that equated effort with worth. You've stepped into a new frequency where growth feels like peace, where manifestation feels like flow, where life feels like partnership. You are no longer seeking. You are remembering, and the field recognizes you as ready. So take a breath. Feel that stillness under the surface. That's your signal. That's coherence. That's the quantum alignment you've been chasing, revealing itself as the state you were always meant to live from. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, nothing left to force. You've remembered how it works. Stay aware, stay aligned, stay coherent, because this is it. This is the moment your consciousness finally stops searching for the way and becomes the way.